This is Larry Felton Johnson. I'm the editor and publisher of the Cobb County Courier, and I'm here at Plant Atkinson Road and the Silver Comet Trail Connector. This is a location of a gap in the finished portion of the Silver Comet Trail Connector. Now that connector is eventually intended to connect the Silver Comet Trail in Cobb County with the Atlanta Beltline. And part of it is already built, but it's in two different sections. Now, a couple of months ago, I did a little video where I came down here, walked along the gap. I came on a Saturday morning and I stated that I didn't think that the gap posed much of a hazard to cyclists. An old friend of mine, Marty Mercer, who lives very near here and has been an avid cyclist for a very long time, took issue with what I said. So I did a Zoom interview with him, which I'm going to play in a few minutes. At least I'm going to play the audio portion of the interview. I've done several versions of this, and I came to the conclusion that they were all too long, and the main reason was that I talked too much in the interviews. So right now I'm going to run the audio interview with Marty Mercer. I'm going to read an email that I got from the communications director from Cobb County when I inquired about when this gap is going to be filled in and completed. And so without me rambling anymore the way I did on the others, I'm going to run the interview with Marty.
So my name, well, first off, Larry, thanks for having me and letting me give you some of my thoughts. My name is Marty Mercer. I live here in Atlanta in Vinings. I'm a longtime road cyclist. I teach indoor spin cycling at the Buckhead YMCA on Moores Mill. I've ridden the Silver Comet for years. The original Silver Comet that started right there at Nickajack Elementary. I guess they call it Mayville Road. I used to ride there.
Yeah.
I used to ride there sometimes from my previous residence, but then I started kind of driving my car over there when traffic just seemed to get worse. But over the years, I have been waiting with bated breath, as many of us have, and which we celebrated a few weeks ago, the opening of the extension of the Silver Comet from its original beginning to, quote, Atlanta, which is now, I guess I call it Bolton Road. And where I live, I'm only a mile from Plant Atkinson. I just go down Log Cabin and I'm right at Plant Atkinson. It's a mile. So it's a personal thing for me because now I don't have to drive my car to get to the Silver Comet. I drive a mile down Log Cabin, which is a very not heavily trafficked road, and then just cross over at the traffic light and go down the 60, 70 yards, whatever it is, down Plant Atkinson, and boom, turn right. There you are on the extension, and then there I go. So it's 4 miles from my house to the original beginning of the Silver Comet, and it's all on paved roads. So why you and I are talking is you had posted some video of you walking from the end, sort of the temporary end of the extension that ends at Plant Atkinson. And if you wanted to keep riding your bike or walking to across the river to Fulton County to Atlanta to Bolton Road, which would then let you access the path, et cetera, you have to do this weird little jig-a-jog, as my sister-in-law calls it, because there is no paved path from the ending at Plant Atkinson to the beginning of the second section on Plant Atkinson. So here's what I have been doing on my bike. I would get to that intersection, then I would have to kind of creep into the road a little bit, look left. It's a heavily trafficked road with huge trucks, big semi trucks, lots of other cars. Look left to make sure no cars are coming. And then what's harder, looking right and down a little bit of a hill, because then there's a big hill that goes up Plant Atkinson, trucks and cars coming down that big hill fast. So you got to really be careful. You got to have your gear in a low gear, because once you start riding to get on to Plant Atkinson, there's a bit of a hill. So you have to look left, be very careful, look right, and it's a little bit of a blind right, to be honest. No cars, no trucks are coming. Then quickly get your pedal speed back up that little hill, and then it would be an easy right-hand turn onto this second piece of the extension. That's okay. It's still kind of tough if you're not a seasoned cyclist. It could be very hazardous. It could be you could feel not good about it. If you're walking, which you were, there is no crosswalk to get across Plant Atkinson to the second extension. There is no button to punch to get across Plant Atkinson to the second extension. So it is very hazardous if you are walking from, if you're walking the way I'm describing, if you're heading east into town and then you hit Plant Atkinson, you'd have to walk up a little bit of a sidewalk, then you get to that gravel parking lot, then you get to the traffic light at Atlanta Road and Plant Atkinson, and that's where it gets really dicey because there's no crosswalk and there's no button. And you've got cars turning right into Plant Atkinson, you got cars turning left, westbound cars turning left off of Atlanta Road onto Plant Atkinson, and cars on Plant Atkinson doing a quick right onto Atlanta Road going east. It's just a very crazy, bad intersection. So the challenge is, well, if I really want to connect to the path and to Atlanta, it's not done. And so it needs that little thing needs to get connected. Now, the other way is actually even more treacherous, I would argue. So let's say you're over in Fulton County somewhere, the way we did that day on the bike ride, from the west side of Atlanta. You'd be coming up Atlanta Road, heading west on the brand new paved, beautiful trail from Bolton Road. You get to the intersection of Plant Atkinson and Atlanta Road. There's a traffic light there, but you want to go left onto Plant Atkinson and then right onto the other extension. So there's the problem. No crosswalk, no button to punch. The only crosswalk is to cross over Atlanta Road going in the wrong direction. There is a button to punch. You could cross over Atlanta Road to get to what is technically called Log Cabin, and then Log Cabin, up to wherever you wanted to go. But if you're trying to get to that first extension, and I did it one time on my bike. It is crazy. So there's no button, there's no crosswalk. So first, you got to look for all the cars that are turning right off Plant Atkinson onto Atlanta Road, and they got the right of way, and they're going. But if you got a green, you got to watch those right-hand turns. You got to watch the cars and the trucks turning left off of westbound Atlanta Road, turning left onto Plant Atkinson. Lots of huge trucks. And you got to watch the cars turning right off of eastbound Atlanta Road onto Plant Atkinson. You have three ways to get hit. And there's no crosswalk and there's no button. I did it, but it was dicey. And so it's hugely dangerous. There's no sidewalk on the left-hand side if you went down Plant Atkinson. If you got over on foot, that's where that gravel parking lot is. That would be okay. It's getting over to the right-hand side of the road that's crazy. So I did talk to a foreman. I met a foreman who had done some work back on the Silver Comet, and then the foreman who was working on this extension. He said the plan is to build a paved path in that gravel parking lot, but he said, just his knowledge, I guess, it's quote not funded yet. So right now, I would argue it really isn't still connected to Atlanta because that little intersection is so dicey, so risky. I have quit taking it. So when I leave my house, I cross over Atlanta Road and get on. That's not risky at all. I got the traffic going with me, no big deal. When I'm finishing my ride, what I've started doing is there is an interim intersection that lets me go onto a paved road and onto the sidewalk going westbound on Atlanta Road, get to the intersection of Atlanta Road and Brownwood where the Shell gas station is, punch the button, have a crosswalk, cross over Atlanta Road, get to Log Cabin, turn left. I've just stopped going on that intersection completely just because it's like, why risk? Why risk it for an extra 2 miles? So that somehow we need to put some pressure on somebody because it still isn't connected, really.
This is Larry Johnson again. When I noticed the coming soon sign, I contacted Ross Cavett, Cobb County's communications director, and asked him the projected completion of the unfinished segment of the trail. Here's what he sent me in reply. Hey Larry, DOT says they're working with the Path Foundation to determine the path forward. Nice. There was a potential zoning case that would have provided land donation for the route, but that plan was withdrawn. Not knowing the status, DOT is just starting the work to determine possible methods of acquiring the necessary property and working with the path folks on funding. Ross Cavett.